It's a pleasure to have you join Money Matters on TV 360 Nigeria. I'm Okbayemi Owosheni. We start off with business news. The management of Dangote Petroleum Refinery has announced a reduction in the ex-depot price of premium motor spirits, popularly known as petrol, from 890 naira to 825 naira per litre, effective from the 27th of February 2025. The slash in price by 65 naira was announced in a statement on the 26th of January by the refinery. Now, according to the statement, buyers in Lagos will purchase fuel at 860 naira per litre at MRS outlets under the new arrangement. The company assured the public of a consistent supply of petroleum products with sufficient reserves to meet domestic demand, as well as a surplus for export to enhance the country's foreign exchange earnings. And Vice President Kashim Shettima has reaffirmed President Bola Tinubu's commitment to an agricultural revolution, emphasizing the crucial role of research institutions like the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture and other partner organizations in achieving food security. Speaking in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, during an assessment tour of the IITA, Shettima expressed confidence in the institution's expertise, capacity and technological innovations to harness Nigeria's agricultural potential. He said that self-reliance in agriculture is now a necessity, especially given the withdrawal of specialized grants previously allocated to the health and agricultural sectors in Nigeria. We'll take a break now and be back with company news. Welcome back. The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has summoned MultiChoice Nigeria over its move to hike subscription rates for DSTV and GoTV. Customers under the paid TV company recently woke up to a notification of a hike in the subscription fees. The feminine notice sent to them increased the DSTV premium bouquet to 44,500 naira from 37,000 naira. It also says subscribers on the Compact Plus will start paying 30,000 naira as against the current fee of 25,000 naira, among others. According to MultiChoice, the new rates take effect from March 1, 2025. And VFD Group announced that its board has approved a capital injection of 5 billion naira into VFD Microfinance Bank dated February 18, 2025. Now, this announcement was made in a release published on the Nigerian Exchange Group and signed by the company's secretary, Bemini Ishoda. According to the release, the board's decision complies with Section 289, subsection 8 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act of 2020, indicating VDF Group's intention to support the operations of its first digital financial institution. We'll take a break now, but when Money Matters returns, we'll be discussing Nigeria's gross domestic product surging by 3.84 in real terms in the fourth quarter of 2024. I'll bring you details after this break. Welcome back. Nigeria's gross domestic product surged by 3.84% in real terms in the fourth quarter of 2024 from 3.46% in the third quarter. Now, that's according to the latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics. According to the NBS, the growth, driven primarily by the services sector, expanded by 5.37%, reflects the economy's continued recovery and expansion in key sectors. However, agriculture experienced a slight slowdown, growing at 1.76%, down from 2.10% in Q4 of 2023. Now, similarly, the industry sector recorded a 2.0% growth decline from the 3.86% in the previous year of 2023. The NBS also reported that the nominal GDP reached 78.37 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2024, when compared to 65 million naira and 908,000 million recorded in the fourth quarter of 2023, now representing a year-on-year nominal growth of 18.91%. Now let's bring an economist, Mohammed, to discuss Nigeria's GDP growth in the fourth quarter of 2024. Thank you for your time as always, Mr. Mohammed. Now, what's your take on the MBS report on Nigeria's GDP rise to 3.84%, considering how challenging 2024 was for the nation's economy?
For me, it's a good thing. Our challenge it was to get that good news yesterday, and I mean, for me, it was good because when you, like you said, the challenges that we have faced. But again, we're not surprised over that. The only surprise that we keep seeing, we see the non-oil sector performing very, very well, and I'm excited that the service sector did so well, about 57%, largely driven by the financial sector and the insurance sector. For me, that was key. So I think it's a good thing that we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. What the reforms is beginning to take shape. We are seeing exchange rate begin to stabilize, even if it was not where it used to be. We are seeing liquidity in the retail side of the exchange rate, and we think we can continue to sustain those momentum. So for me, it was good to see that. But again, it was not unexpected. But maybe the growth was beat expectation.
Now, we've seen a GDP growth of 3.84%, which is quite commendable and remarkable. Now, how sustainable exactly do you think this growth is for the Nigerian economy generally?
Well, it's sustainable because, again, it's coming from, when you look at that report, you look at that there are room for more improvement, especially in the oil and gas sector, where we saw that crude oil output fell to 1.4 million barrels from a high of about 1.5 million barrels. So for me, I think we'll work cautiously to meet that. That's a positivity there. When you look at the financial sector, which was the key driver of the service sector, the recapitalization of the banks are still ongoing. We just have about 3 banks that have made recapitalization, so other banks are still coming in. So we could see that sector also play a key role again. And then the insurance sector, you saw that if you look from that report, it's because of the third-party insurance issue, the fiscal policy of that mandatory third party for every motorist on the street in Nigeria. And that has helped also driving that. We expect that more of those cars also will begin to get that third party. So that will be an improvement. But again, the agricultural sector call for more improvement. Hopefully, security will improve, especially in the northeast, north central, northwest, where we have large agricultural output coming from that side. So that's my optimism when I look at which sector have really driven it, and that sector is just like 30% away from recapitalization. Then you look at the oil sector, so it has not really hit that mark that we expected to hit. It was even -2. So we expect that they will get back to that, and that could also help the GDP growth in the coming months and coming quarters.
Now, the GDP growth was led by the services sector, which contributed over 5.7% to Nigeria's GDP. Now, what do you think the Nigerian government can do to avoid an over-reliance on that sector, potentially at the expense of other sectors like agriculture and manufacturing?
When you look at those two service sectors that drive growth in the service sector, I mean, you look at those two sectors that drive growth in that service sector, you look at the financial sector, you look at the insurance sector, they cannot be growth in manufacturing, they cannot be growth in agriculture if the financial sector is not very stable. So that also should be a pointer, a positivity that, look, if you have that sector stable, especially the financial sector, then farmers and manufacturers will begin to get loan at a single rate. Cost of funding will come down, and so that will help growth in the agriculture and the manufacturing sector. And also then you begin to see insurance play a key role also in the manufacturing sector also. And that also will help stimulate growth in those sectors. So I think it's not over-reliant. It's more or less like we are laying the foundation, because the driver of any sustainability of any economic policy is the financial sector. And if that sector itself, in the service sector, is driving growth of almost 57%, and I think that calls for jubilation, and that tells you that we are beginning to get the foundation. Once the foundation is fine, then other sectors will naturally just key into it, and we could begin to. So I don't think it's an over-reliant, But I think it's better for these two key sectors to maintain those growths, and from there, you can begin to talk about other sectors.
Now, given this growth that we've seen, Mr. Mohammed, do you think the Nigerian economy is becoming more services driven? And if so, what does this mean for future economic policy?
Like I said, the service sectors have always been the key root of the Nigerian economy because of our population, because of our consuming, we are a consuming economy. So we are largely driven by the service sector. So it is no news. That has been a sector that really, because we consume a lot, whether we are importing it or whether we are also manufacturing it here. But the key is that this time we are not seeing so much of consumable. We are seeing so much of structures adding to this growth that we are seeing, which, like I said, the financial sector. So for me, that is good. But if you say we are over-relying, I don't think so. Because again, like I said, we are a consuming economy. So it shouldn't be surprising what we are getting from there. But there's still a lot of work to be done. Once that sector is stable, like I said, it has a snowball effect to other sectors. So Nigerian economy is largely a consumer-driven economy. So it's no news. So it's still good for us.
Now let's talk about the oil sector. It grew by only 1.48% in the fourth quarter of 2024. It's a significant drop from the 12.11% recorded in the fourth quarter of 2023. Now, what impact does this have on Nigeria's long-term economic stability, especially considering Nigeria's very large reliance on oil sector?
Very huge. And again, that is where there's cause for concern. Because now we are celebrating the stability or the calming down of the exchange rate between the naira and the dollar. That is largely driven by this sector, the oil and gas sector, especially the crude oil sector. So if we don't have an improvement in that sector, that will also have an impact on our foreign reserve, and that means we'll not be able to have a liquidity to intervene in the FX market, like what the CBN is doing today with the release of FX to build the change. So for me, that's where there's cause for worry. But I think when you look at that drop, it's very significant. And so that's where my worry is. And that's opened us to high risks. And again, we are not so sure what the price of crude will be, because the current administration of the United States favor a low crude price. And if that comes in turn, that also will have a negative impact on our reserve. But the positive impact will be on our local sector, that is in local refinery, because now we are practically refine about 50% of what we consume in terms of petroleum products. So that will help us bring down the cost in terms of PMS costs, because we are now locally refining, and also with the naira to dollar policy that this administration has put in place. So that will be good for the local, but for our foreign reserve, which will also help us stabilize an exchange rate. And you mustn't forget that we virtually import everything that we consume. That will be a huge challenge. So that's where my concern is, definitely.
Well, let's talk about the telecommunications sector, because it has been making rounds for a very long time now. Now, it continued its strong performance with a 5.90% growth in the fourth quarter of 2024. Now, do you think the growth of the telecom sector is sustainable, given the recent 50% tariff hike by telecom operators, which so many Nigerians have been complaining about?
Well, so many Nigerians are against it, but if I ask you, are we still not using data? We are against it, but we have not stopped using it. So definitely that also will be good. At the long run, you need to know why they are also adding those 50%. Cost of living has definitely gone up. Cost of goods and services have gone up. The last time they did any increment was almost like 12 years ago. And so when you see what they've done now, you can really give them a little bit of kudos to be one of the most stable. And I think with this 50% hike, you don't think you get those hike monthly like what you see in other service sectors. I don't want to mention them. One of them have just increased tariff again. It's becoming a yearly thing. So you need to commend the telecommunication sector. And what that will do is that it's going to boost investment in that sector. If you look at, we have challenges with our networks these days. And so this was due to lack of investment because of the high cost that was involved and the low fee that we're paying. I think for me, that sector is one sector to watch out for, because with the hike now, there will be room to improve infrastructure in the telecom sector and also boost investment in that sector and also create jobs. So I think the 50% hike will become a blessing in the long run for us.
Now, what structural reforms do you think Nigeria needs to focus on to enhance sustainable growth and development, especially in sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and energy?
Okay, let's start with agriculture. The growth we need to see there is a physical side of it, because the physical side also have to look at that sector and see how they can help improve it. And what that sector is needing at the moment is security. How much security can you provide so that farmers can go to farm and produce? That is locally, so that they can be able to even meet local demands of Nigerian local demand in terms of some food items that we cannot import. Then secondly, you have to look at the government policy before the policy of removal of tariff for agricultural product. Even if we are not doing the agricultural product, we should use the agricultural machinery that are used to make most of this product into finished product. We need to see how we can deal with that aspect and also bring relief. That will also help in that sector. Now you talk about the second side. You talk about is energy. For energy, I think the major challenge with the energy sector is the high cost. Also, there's not so much investment there, and this is largely driven because of they say that because of poor tariff. The tariff have improved now, they are still saying it has to do better, and that is largely driven again by exchange rates. So if exchange rate is not stable, those investment will not come because the cost of those investments will be high. And also, it's an area that if government wants to help, government should also begin to look at removing tariff in some of these energy machines that we need to for power, so that the cost could come down, and then we could see more households in Nigeria have power. Those are the type of reform I think. For the manufacturing, one thing is necessary for the manufacturer: stable exchange rate. They have cried for it. It's either importing of machineries for finished goods, or in terms of also the power. Power should be stable, and power should also not be that expensive like it is today. Those are the two structural reforms that they need in that. But if you look at all these three areas that I just mentioned that you asked about, you realize that one variable is key to all of them doing very well in terms of structure, and that is exchange rate. We must boost liquidity. We must maintain a stable exchange rate. That will not only keep these three sectors very viable, it will attract more investors into these sectors.
So now, Mr. Mohammed, finally, before I let you go, the year is just starting. Even though it's February, we still have about 10 months to go before 2025 comes to an end. Now, what do you think are the key risks and opportunities you foresee for Nigeria's economy in 2025, especially because inflation has reduced significantly according to the latest data from the NBS?
Well, I don't agree with you that inflation has reduced significantly. I mean, rebasing is not a tool to deal with inflation. So I don't think inflation has reduced significantly. I don't think so. And that is, if inflation has reduced significantly, the CBN will not be holding rates. They would rather be cutting rates down. So for me, I don't think inflation has come that significant. If you look at the NBC report, the Nigerian Bureau of NBS report, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, you saw that food inflation is still 40%. Other inflation on variables are still high cost of transportation, high cost of house rent. So I'm not among those school of thought that think inflation has come down because you have done rebasing. So we need to deal with those inflation challenges. They are still there. Supply chain, especially agricultural supply chain, because of insecurity. We need to improve on that, make sure we have security so that we can have more farm items in the market, and also look at how we can reduce the type of levies these farmers pay for movement of their goods from the rural area to the urban area. So those are things that we need to do to bring down inflation. Also, exchange rate is still there. You can't stop talking about exchange rate. That also is a big high risk, especially now that we are not sure of what the price of crude will be tomorrow. And also, if those prices come down, also it will have a significant impact on our reserve. And also the other area that we earn FX is Nigeria, the diaspora. That also is a challenging area these days with the current immigration policy of the current American president. So those are for me, the risks I see in going forward is low oil price and also high exchange rate. If we are not able to improve in our supply chain But the positivity, like I said, would be maybe low price in terms of PMS, especially now that we do refine over 50% of what we consume.
Well, economist Mr. Mohammed, we appreciate your contribution. Many thanks for lending your thoughts on the program. That's it on this episode of the program. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Okbayemi Owosheni. See you next time.